Welcome everybody to 13 Things You Must Do to Improve IT Now, which will be presented by Russell Burton, Vice President of Network Management and IT for Alaska Communications, and Sean Fuller, Founder and CEO of TekMate LLC. We thank you guys for taking the time to join us today. Please use the Q&A feature of the live webinar as I have everyone muted on the line, so we won't be able to hear any live questions. We will answer those questions at the end of the presentation. So with that, I'm going to pass it along to Sean Fuller from TekMate.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Sean Fuller. I'm the founder and CEO of TekMate. So again, we're going to go through 13 things you must do to improve IT now. And if you have any issues seeing the slide deck, please send the Q&A and we'll get started here. So the first slide here is, where does your money go? This is a traditional Gartner report that comes out yearly, and we'll just go through some of the areas of an IT infrastructure and where money is spent based on IT. You can see at the top there, applications 15%, network support is 12%, the infrastructure 68%. So relevant to that, you know, based on machines, facilities, and people who support those, that's where a lot of IT infrastructure, a lot of IT dollars are spent around your infrastructure. So down below that, you'll see some additional, it breaks it down a little further there. Hardware and software, it breaks down to hardware is 19%, software is 18%, and outsourcing is 18%, and other, you see, is a big number there, which is 38%. So you'll see that as we go through this here and this presentation, that depending on what you're spending your money on, spending drives some of the least tangible benefit to the business. And we'll try to translate that throughout the presentation around enterprise and small and medium business infrastructures. So what can I do about it? So we'll go through these 13 things here. I'll let you take a minute to read through these here, and then we'll get started with the 13 objectives. Okay, we'll go off to number 1, adopt industry standards. So I'm going to talk about the small medium business aspects of this here. This is a really important. Standardize your hardware and software platforms. Depending on, you know, what you're doing, one of the things that we have noticed a big gain and efficiency in spending money and support is standardize your hardware and software platforms. So an example to that is, you know, if you're a Dell shop or if you're an HP shop, or, you know, the one thing that we always recommend against is what we consider what are called white boxes. So if there's a white box solution where people are building individual PCs or individual servers or things like that, you don't get the same supportability. You don't get the same type of support across the operating systems and, you know, examples just, you know, drivers and different things like that for the solution. So that creates a lot of additional support costs for you. And also, as you go through this here, you're looking for an operating system, or, you know, depending on what it is, as far as the operating system or software, again, it's standardization. It allows, you know, everybody to become very familiar with, you know, how it's set up, how it's supported, and how it's working. So troubleshooting issues along that platform becomes very simple. And if you're doing anything with freeware, you know, I understand from a small, medium business perspective, freeware, you know, really sounds good. But again, it's all about who can support it, where can you get support for it, and if you spend a lot of time troubleshooting the aspects of any kind of freeware, then it really isn't, it really, you know, takes the freeware and changes that into a very costly application. The big thing about standardization, which is the third bullet, I think is so critical in the small, medium business and enterprise level, is this removes dependency on a single vendor. You don't have someone who has, you know, written a particular piece of software who can support it, and only that person can support it, or only that company can support it. You get away from that, which really gives you the flexibility to, you know, make sure you're getting the best support for the best dollar that's there. And again, around single deployments, faster. When you make the investment to purchase some kind of imaging type of solution around your desktops, one of the things that we were having a discussion about in the last 30 days with a group of IT individuals was about deployment and troubleshooting. So if I have a workstation, I have an image, I deploy that image, I roll that image out, and everybody has a standard configuration. But what comes along with that is troubleshooting, and some of the things that we've figured out and learned and how to build processes around is if you have, you know, you've trained people and you have procedures and policies that state, okay, you store your data on the server, you store your information, make sure you use the network for what it's built for. And what we've determined is within 30 minutes, if there's an issue and you can't resolve that issue from a technician's perspective, you re-image that machine and they have a brand new machine versus spending 2 or 3 hours trying to figure out what driver is corrupt or what's wrong with that operating system. So it allows you to reduce the cost of that PC, reduce the cost of the support, because now people can support additional resources when you have that kind of policy. And it's important to have the policies and procedures and make sure everybody understands that. The biggest thing, if you can't adopt, hire someone who can help you. Again, TekMate and Alaska Communications can absolutely help you get there. We have a lot of vendor certifications along with HP, Dell, VMware, just a bunch of different ones. Okay, moving on to adopt a process. This is an important procedure whether you're small, medium business or whether you're enterprise business. The processes, the more mature you get your processes, the less it costs you to operate as a business. And it's important if you're a small business owner, I started TekMate in 2001 by myself, being a small business and growing it. Currently we have about 55 employees. And so I understand that, as you start out, you wear many hats and you get to do a lot of different things. And so you don't always have the best processes and procedures in place, but as you grow your business, if you mature those processes, you'll see that it becomes easier to manage your business and grow your business. And I think the biggest thing is don't change your process because it didn't work. Improve on that process. And again, this just helps you relieve the pain points within a business as it grows. Moving on to slide number 3 there, adopt standard processes. This is also important around what's called the Information Technology Information Library. You'll see that down below. It says ITIL. And you'll see that's the services, strategies, and catalogs in different areas like that. So being an enterprise business, this is really key to your success, to understand what ITIL is, how to develop this, how to use it, and how to apply this to the business. And again, IT drives the business. Business drives IT solutions, which is so critical. I think some people have it, exactly the opposite, as I stated earlier. And from this business, you apply the IT solutions around the services that the business needs and that it's offered to its clientele. But if you're a small business, we understand that this is a very costly, model to implement. And again, this is where, as far as services that TekMate and ACS offer, we have service desk and offerings that are ITIL certified that can meet that need. And again, if you can't adopt that, hire someone who can, because it really helps improve the processes of your technology, your support, your refresh cycles, and things like that. If you want to learn more about the ITIL process, we'll give you some links to request more information here at the end of the presentation. Moving on to number 4, cloud computing is here to stay. I'm sure you guys have heard this, and the cloud can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So it's very important, though, big business solutions at a small business price. So really, again, the cloud services model allows you to get an enterprise solution at a small business price. And depending on what you need, depending on the vertical that your business lives in, if you're healthcare, if you're local government or any of those kind of things where you require certain security requirements or certain government regulations that you might fall under, there is 2 ways to get to the cloud. That is a private cloud and a public cloud offering. And again, you need to identify which one meets your business goals. So to give you a little idea, it's not really a security concern. What happens and drives the private cloud solution is more around regulations of your business, because again, the public part of the cloud is very secure. The private cloud is also very secure, but again, regulations will drive which, if I choose a private or public offering in the cloud. Makes your technology more available and less downtime. You got to realize that the cloud is supported by organizations that run 24/7. They give you SLAs of 99.9% uptime, reliability. For you to build that kind of reliability in your organization might not be cost effective. So it really gives you that ability to get more out of your technology, and it also allows you to pay as you go. So depending on how many people you have, where you're headed, You can grow, you can expand, and you can contract as your business changes. So it's a very flexible model. And again, I think the biggest thing there is the cloud is here to stay, and a lot of people are migrating to that solution now. So number 5, turn off what you don't use. So this is important around large enterprises. A lot of times there is depending on how you've managed your infrastructure, if you have the right software solutions, if you have the right technologies in place to really manage your infrastructure, a lot of times you'll learn from an audit perspective of devices, resources, servers, things like that that you thought were turned down or not. So many times you run into, as you migrate into a virtualized environment, you'll take a physical server, you'll migrate that into a virtual server, and that server will, 6 months later, will still be there working and running, and maybe you've disabled some services on it that you've migrated off, but some services or some things are still running on there. So it's really about, figuring out what you have, figuring out how to reduce that cost. As you can see in bullet 2 there, the cost of power in Iraq is anywhere between $300 and $400 a month in Alaska. As you guys know, we don't have the cheapest energy rates in our state. So one of the things that Alaska Communications is in the process of doing is decommissioning 40% of their physical assets this year on the server side. And, obviously virtualization is allowing us to drive the efficiency around the solution, but also it allows us to reduce the power consumption and the cost, and along comes with that is the management of that infrastructure obviously decreases as well. So as you guys look at that, from an enterprise perspective, virtualization is a big opportunity. It's an area to save money, and it allows you to be more nimble and flexible in your enterprise operations. So from a small business, though, what happens is this turn off what you don't use is important as you have the opportunity to migrate things that are that can reside and live in the cloud. And from that perspective, you can turn off servers and that consume a lot of power, which is a cost savings to move into the cloud as well. So this is really, again, two-sided here for the enterprise business and the small-medium business. And, each year refresh, replace, or remove significant components of your infrastructure. Again, that's relevant to what you're doing. And one of the things that a lot of, IT organizations, small-medium business companies don't realize, but when you refresh, every 2 to 3 years, your hardware, you gain efficiencies from, they don't require as much power now, so you get that efficiency. You get latest and greatest performance on a particular workstation or a laptop, so you get to increase productivity from a user perspective. And so many times people will try to squeeze the last, nickel out of a computer and try to run for 4 or 5 or 6 years, and ultimately that decreases the productivity of the end user. Number 6, invest in the small to protect the big. This is pretty straightforward, and this is such a obvious thing, and so many times this is overlooked. Some of the basic things, just like building a house, if you don't build the foundation and you try to build the rest of it, it's ultimately going to fall down. And protect against power surges. So many times people look at and don't utilize the UPS correctly. They don't size it correctly. They don't realize the amount of runtime on a UPS, how much they can actually continue to operate. So it's so important to invest in the small, which is a UPS to start with, and second to that is basic virus protection. You got to invest in that software to protect against your network. So many times data gets lost or infected that is sometimes, you can't retrieve it, or it's infected to the point you have to rebuild a machine, or relevant to the virus might spread on your network. And sometimes this thing is as simple as making sure that you have the current updates to your antivirus software and that you have a current subscription with the vendor. They're very, very basic things that get overlooked, but can create big problems for you. Number 7, focus on the fill rates. This is around enterprise business. It does fall into the SMB a little bit here, so we'll talk about enterprise and then we'll go into the SMB side. So from the fill rate, what this is consolidation, again, around space, power, labor savings. So again, virtualization drives a lot of this. today you can get, depending on how you power a server, you can get 8 virtual machines on a particular server versus 8 physical servers. So you can see that driving that fill rate is a big component in reducing the IT cost. And really, from a support perspective, also helps you be nimble and flexible on how you roll out solutions and how you migrate and how you maintain a 99% uptime requirement for your organization. And virtualization isn't just for the big guys in the enterprise. It also plays into the small, medium business as well. So I would make sure that everybody is keenly aware of the benefits of virtualization. So, and you can see here, attempt to reach at least 70%. So one of the things is historically, as virtualization was rolled out, traditional hard servers were only getting about 20% utilization. Now we're trying to reach a 70% utilization, and that's what we consider the fill rate of those that infrastructure cost, and we try to utilize 70% of that versus 15 to 20%. So you're really getting the maximum bang for your buck there. The other thing about enterprise, adopt providers who are incented to maximize fill rate. So when you look at, from an enterprise perspective, you look at hiring a consultant or somebody to come in and help you design, implement, migrate to a virtualized environment, or you're trying to get that fill rate as high as you can, make sure that there's incentives relevant to that versus selling you software or selling you hardware or any of those kind of caveats of a provider. And number 8, this is important around enterprise, again, grow economies of scale and skill. So as you put things in place, people, processes, and technology, scale builds purchasing efficiencies. If you buy Dell or you buy Microsoft operating systems or an enterprise agreement or what's called a service provider license agreements, different things like that allow you to build scale around your purchasing efficiencies. Scale makes you money because you become more efficient, less resource intensive. And the third bullet there, which is really key, scale builds the knowledge base of your employees. So now, as you've standardized this environment, you've picked the purchasing efficiencies around hardware, software. Where do you go with that? Now your employees know exactly where it is and where you're going, and they know what solutions, without coming back and having to question, oh, the CIO, hey, I need to do this. What are we going to do? Oh, I'll come back. They know exactly what the process is. Scale causes vendors to behave differently as well. It gives you that ability to drive additional efficiencies within each vendor from the perspective, again, around hardware and software. So work with others who can help you increase that scale, depending on, again, what services and what models you're after. So moving on to number 9, outsource what makes sense. This here is important for items that are not part of your business. The critical value chain, outsource what you can. Depending on, again, what level of enterprise you are, you can outsource maybe your service desk, your tier 1 help desk. If you're a small, medium business, maybe you outsource all your IT services, and you get that efficiency gain from a provider who is doing and providing you, again, a standardization around the ITIL model of how you get support. So again, things that are not critical, look at outsourcing those. For items that are on critical value chains, outsource where you can achieve additional scale. So depending on where this is relevant to an enterprise business, you can outsource and continue to grow certain levels of your back-end support, virtualization support, or special business applications, what we consider line of business applications. If there's additional value there, you can add on to that. So it just depends on where you're at within your enterprise IT services organization. And the third thing here is take the time necessary to strike a clear agreement. It's important to always define the roles and responsibilities in any agreement, whether it's the enterprise agreement, whether it's a small, medium business agreement. In our case, where we come in and provide what's a service called Constantly on IT, it's clear roles and responsibilities about, are we doing Tier 1 support? Are we doing Tier 2 support? Are we doing Tier 3 support? Everybody is very clear because that's the way you get the value of agreement. If it's ambiguous to what services are going to be provided, when are they going to be provided. There might be questions along that agreement which will create angst amongst the vendor and the customer, which ultimately create additional costs for you. So always get a clear agreement. So I'm going to turn number 10 over here to Russell Gerton. He's going to talk to you about slide 10, introduce variability into your models.
We think it's really important to introduce variability into models because we want to create an IT environment that expands as your business expands and contracts as your business contracts, so that, especially in times like these where there is a particularly difficult time in anticipating what kind of business that you're going to take on board, you want to have the ability to build out new offices or close new offices without harm to your business. So we recommend that you purchase everything that you can in a way that scales with your business. Now, there are a lot of different models that you can do that kind of work in. Transaction counts, like the number of widgets that I sell, user counts, or number of locations are particularly popular models that we use. For some of our systems, we use the number of devices that we support. In some instances, we take a look, again, at the number of users. And then in some places, we look at the number of transactions that we do through the system, especially around point-of-sale systems. If you take that approach, it's very difficult to keep user counts or transaction counts from spiraling out of control. And the last thing that you want to do is get to the end of a true-up period where you assess with the vendor, do I have the number of transactions or the number of users or the number of widgets that I expected to use, and then have a big bill. So it's very important that you place a maniacal focus on managing those units of measure. How many users are actually signed up to use the system? How many, does my business process combine transactions into a single transaction to bring transaction counts down? And we think it's important to do that. And we would recommend that either you or a partner conduct periodic audits of those units of measure to make sure that you're supporting what you say you're going to support and that you are using what you've agreed to use so that you're not surprised with a big bill at the end of the period.
Okay, great. So moving on to number 11, align IT to business strategy. This is important in many areas. I think that from, where's the business going, what are you doing, and really drive projects that increase the business objectives. And really protect from obsolescence or disaster. One of the key areas that we see amongst small, medium business and enterprise businesses is a disaster protection plan. So make sure that's a focus. And as you guys can see from the last 3 or 4 weeks of the things that have happened, nationwide. Grow or reduce necessary capacity, depending on what, again, what you're doing there. So many times the ability to grow certain capacity. So and what I mean by that is, as I grow and I add 100 users, do I buy, 10 additional servers, or do I go to the cloud and get those servers? Because when this project is over or this contract is over in, 12 months, 18 months, or 24 months, now I have that additional capacity sitting there that I'm paying for that I'm not getting or adding any business value to. And again, work with the business leaders within the business organization to identify what you're doing and to align IT to help grow the business. These are projects that deliver value to the business as a whole. Your enterprise, this also allows you to survive cuts as, the business is, you've added additional value around what service and projects you're doing for that business. And again, as things continue on, you want to improve the efficiency of IT. And depending on if you're a small, medium business, that might be around outsourcing, or that might be around the cloud. If you're an enterprise business, that might be around how do I spend my capital dollars, and how do I continue to get a return on my investment for that capital dollar that I'm spending.
And to the extent that you have IT people as a part of your team, we believe that it's most appropriate to have IT people doing things for your business that's helping you generate revenue. So, for example, rather than maintaining email users, we think you're going to get better use out of your IT folks to have them implement a system that automatically mails offers, coupons to your customers. Those kinds of things, to the extent that you keep IT around.
That's a very good point. So the other last thing there is conduct a strategy alignment. Again, audit based on a yearly basis. I think that's important. A lot of companies don't audit their infrastructure. They don't audit their processes. They don't audit their procedures and how they're delivering IT. And again, that's a service that Alaska Communications and TekMate can help you perform to make sure that you have and you are getting the best benefit for each dollar you've spent. One of the number 12, repeat and share with yourself and others. So I'm going to talk about the small, medium business and where this is very valuable around a service called Constantly on IT. Again, if you don't have the dollars and the capital dollars to build out a big IT organization for your small, medium business, to get the additional value of the processes and from an IT perspective, and we'll talk about this at the end, but Constantly on IT is a service model that we have built, standardized, and we can repeat and share that with all of the organizations that we support. One of the big things is, again, around the small, medium business is how do I make it efficient? How do I get an ROI based on the service and support model for the SMB side? Because, some of you might have an IT person 40 hours a week, but maybe that person needs to go on vacation. Well, what happens then? Or, you're in a break-fix model, or, you have somebody for 4 hours a week. This service model gives you 100% of IT service and support in an enterprise level that fits the small, medium business price model. I'm going to turn over to Russell to talk about how repeat and share works in the enterprise space as he's done here at Alaska Communications.
One of the things that we found, as well as organizations like Gartner, Yankee, or Forrester, is that when you're taking on IT projects, just out of the gate, every project has a 50% chance of failure, either by not finishing outright or not delivering the business benefits that you've expected as a provider. And that's a negative for any of us. One of the biggest predictors of failure is if you're trying to take on items that you haven't taken on before. So if you've never set up a remote office, that can be a challenge. If you have never done electronic document interchange with another company, that can be a challenge. And frankly, your IT staff probably doesn't know all the intricacies of what it'll take to roll out that service. So we think it's very important to find people who have, because if you don't, then the opportunity for that project to fail is increased exponentially. So there are a lot of ways to repeat and share. Number one is to engage in online communities that have done these kinds of things before. Second is to engage local communities. So who else in Anchorage or in Alaska has done this kind of work before of opening up a remote office or connecting multiple offices together? And third, we think that it's also very valid to engage vendors who've done that work before and incorporate them as a part of the project plan. Companies like TekMate have a very broad range of skills, and they've done a lot of different kinds of work before. And so it's always appropriate to poll those vendors to see if they've done work before that mirrors the work that you're trying to accomplish. That will result in a much higher success rate, and it will allow you to repeat, reuse, and share infrastructure and share techniques for doing different IT, performing different IT services whenever it's possible.
Yeah, and along with that, that increases percentage of success on all your projects as you roll them out. So, all right, number 13, buy only the IT you need. So it is incredibly easy to buy too much IT. We've, as a service provider, we've watched this happen because traditional vendors are not going to stop you from spending too much money with them. And so it's always important. Again, there's a lot of things that drive buy only the IT you need. Is obviously your agreements that are clearly identified of roles and responsibilities. Where you're going to buy hardware, where you're going to buy software, who's going to be doing, what portion and pieces of that. And again, around, I hate to go back to the cloud, but again, the cloud services model gives you that advantage to be able to pay per user per month. That way you can be very flexible. And along with that is, IT services for the small, medium business is as you need to support big projects, you can hire outside vendors to roll those out. That way you don't have to hire staff, train them, do the project, and then retain them or, obviously lay them off. So That is a very big piece of not only the IT you need for the small, medium business sector, which Alaska has quite a bit of the SMB market, and anywhere we can help from a TekMate and Alaska Communications perspective, we will be here for you to do that. So again, I'm going to allow Russell to talk about the enterprise.
One of the things that we find whenever we go in to do work with a new client is that there's often a whole lot of servers and a whole lot of software that may be kept on a very special shelf in a closet somewhere, and that in our mind that is the evidence of overbuying. And so when we work with customers, what we want to do is put a standard framework in place for managing capacity, so that we can expand capacity or contract capacity when we get it, when we need to do that, whether it's the number of servers or the amount of bandwidth. And one of the capabilities that TekMate has in place is an early warning system, especially around bandwidth, to detect when we're starting to exhaust bandwidth, when things are starting to slow down. Same is true for disk capacity and processor capacity, so that as the business grows, as the business changes, we're either retiring servers that we don't need or we're augmenting precisely where we need those resources to go. It's a spectacular capability and one we recommend you adopt.
So that's the top 13 items we believe that can save you money and help provide you better IT services. So how can TekMate and Alaska Communications help? So TekMate has developed constantly on IT, and again, this is around Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 support models, on-site support as needed. And for the participants here today, we would like to offer a free audit to all of you. We'll come out, we'll audit your network, it won't cost you a dime. So if you want to schedule that, you can see there, you can email tellmemore@acsalaska.com to get on the schedule to get that to happen. The other part of this here is what's called hardware as a service. And if you haven't seen this, this is somewhat of a new service. It's basically, we're able to offer you desktop servers, storage devices, any kind of your on-prem and in-cloud service model, these devices for a monthly fee, and they get certain software from Microsoft applied to them that also come as a monthly fee as well. And it allows you, if you're familiar with what's called software assurance, with hardware as a service, it always comes with software assurance in the Microsoft world. So on a 36-month term agreement, you can upgrade as many times at no additional cost the software that's on these devices. And again, if you want more information, you can send an email request to tellmemore@acsalaska.com. Cloud services, Alaska Communications offers cloud services around hosted storage, hosted virtual machines, and we're also in the process of rolling out a public hosted offering as well. So pay attention to that coming in Q2. And along with the cloud services model, and also hardware as a service, is what's called software as a service. You'll see there Microsoft applications, vertical applications, and again, depending on what you want to have, where you need them, where they need to run, we offer software as a service as well. And again, any questions, you have the email address there, tellmemore@acsalaska.com, and again, that's the same email address to schedule your free audit. The next slide there is customer testimonials. Please take a moment to go out and listen to some of those. You'll see that some of those are small, medium business, and you'll also see some that are enterprise business. So Nana Management Services, Sitka Community Hospital, Beacon Occupational Health and Safety Services, and the Kenai Peninsula Borough School District. That is at www.alaskacommunications.com/testimonials. Okay, and the last is questions, and I'll turn it over to Jen to see what questions we have from the attendees.
So I have a question here from Mike. Where do you stand on what is being called the consumerization of IT? More people are asking for their employer to provide them with smartphones or computers that they use personally as well as for work. More companies are providing these kinds of devices over the older style of devices that were more functional than easy to use.
We're going to spend a lot of time on that topic, about an hour at Interface on Thursday. So what time will we do? It's at 1:50 to 2:40. So you can hear more about it then. But We're very liberal in the types of devices that we support. We generally do not buy consumer devices for folks other than smartphones. We're generally liberal when it comes to the kinds of smartphones that we allow employees to use and carry with them. We do have one restriction, and that's we generally restrict to the devices that we sell. Alaska Communications has a wide variety of wireless devices. I'm sure that you'll find a number of them that will meet your needs. But with that said, we try to be very liberal. So if you look around in meetings today, you'll see iPads, you'll see smartphones, you'll see Zoom tablets, and you'll see Galaxy tabs in the meetings that we have today. What we generally we have a relatively robust mail interface that we support. We generally support some syncing of data to devices. When it comes to end user support, we'll provide limited end user support, but we have an expectation that users, if they are sophisticated enough to bring their own devices, that they will provide first-tier support for themselves or through alternate channels. A number of issues that concern me about that as the CIO of Alaska Communications, especially around data security. I am quite concerned about it. We monitor data and how data moves through our environment in order to keep a better handle on data, but it is the problem that the USB key brought tenfold. So, and I don't know that there are any particularly clean solutions. We'll talk about some of the things that we do on Thursday at Interface.
I hope that answers your question. If not, just let me know through the Q&A. I have a question here from Marie. How can outsourcing help me with scale and variability?
Outsourcing can help based on scale is based on the, so an example of that is based on our constantly on IT models. We have Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 support mechanisms, but what comes with that is 24/7 network monitoring and reporting, and then there's, you're getting, I want to say, 18 people today in an IT department that's supporting your organization 40 hours a week. So, again, and that's a very fiscally responsible model for a small business, because traditionally, can they get Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, and on-site roles for a flat fixed monthly fee? And again, as those tiers, we could go through the tiered question of what each tier is responsible for and how our constantly on IT service model works. But it gives you that ability to expand the capacity of knowledge, and also for introducing variability into your model. It gives you're getting people who support a lot of different customers, and we see a lot of different things changing every day, and we're on the latest and greatest technology, so we're always introducing to you opportunities on how to reduce the IT cost in your organization around the fill rate and around the variability model, what makes sense to your organization based on your vertical as well.
And Sean, if I'm a constantly on IT customer, can I add or remove desktops or notebooks and over time?
Absolutely. It gives you that flexibility. You can grow and shrink the contract based on adding users and decreasing users as well.
So if you're a company that has 5, 10, 30, 50, 100 employees, by taking advantage of a service like Constantly on IT, I expand the number of people that support me, and I expand the number and type of problems that my IT has encountered, don't I?
Yes, that's correct. And so how we deal with that is, we're always, our staff is currently, as far as certifications, they're always on the latest and greatest certifications and supporting the latest and greatest software as, new things roll out, so you're able to support adding additional resources and capacity and technology to your organization.
I hope that answers Marie's question. Mike, I see here, has asked, can I get more information on the Thursday meeting? Yes, all of the participants of today's webinar will receive information on the interface event, which is happening on Thursday, and the discussion that Russell discussed earlier.
And where's it at the Denina Center?
The Denina Center starts at 9 a.m. at the Denina Center with several vendors with booths. And we'll make sure that everyone gets an invitation and the ability to register for that event.
And there are giveaways.
There are lots of giveaways. We are particularly giving away Nook colors.
And other swag.
And other swag. I have another question here. This one's from Jonathan. Can you please discuss the difference between the private and public cloud?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we're a tremendous user of the cloud. We use both private and public cloud services in our own environment. So let me talk a little bit about how what the difference is, and then how we deploy them. A private cloud is a pool of processing capacity or data storage that you use for your own purposes, generally within a single entity. So, for example, we have about 120, 130 virtual servers that we use to provide connectivity to applications, that provide the ability to scale. You know, if we need to add processor to an application in a very rapid manner, to deploy new applications. All of that is a shared pool of disk and processor that we can allocate as necessary, or we can have other software allocate as necessary. The public cloud is a little bit different in that we rely on a third party to take care of those things for us. And secondly, it's shared with other entities outside of Alaska Communications. So in our instance, one of the capabilities that you can get from our website is the ability to see your bill. You can get the most recent, or the 13 most recent instances of your wireline bill and your wireless bill at www.alaskacommunications.com. When you do that, the actual bill image itself is stored and presented from a third-party service that we contract with in order to display that image. Again, that's a shared pool of resources that we pay for by the invoice query, and it's used for us, and capacity is managed and it's shared with other companies that use this same third-party service. So that's the basic difference in how we use it at Alaska Communications.
All right, thank you. And I have a question here from Adam. What is included in the IT audit, and how much work is it going to take me to be involved in that?
So what's included in the IT audit is we get all of the assets on your network, anything that's an IP address. For you to be included, it's simply working with an engineer to plug in a laptop and get a particular password to have access to your network. So it's not very intrusive. The audit is actually what's called agentless, so there isn't things that have to go on workstations or servers or any of that. It runs on our laptop, and it will audit your entire network. And it gives you a tremendous view of your assets and what you have in your environment around workstations, desktops, laptops, servers, routers, switches, firewalls, things like that.
And so will it go so far as to tell me the configuration of each workstation, like processor and memory and that kind of stuff in the software install?
Absolutely. It gets down to all the detailed software, what versions. If you have two versions of Office, 2007 or 2010 on one particular machine, it will pull that detailed data.
How would you compare it to something like System Center, the reporting that comes out of System Center?
How would I compare it to System Center? I think that from a overall perspective, it isn't one vendor. It captures all the vendors. So it's not relevant to Microsoft. It's not relevant to Cisco. It captures all. It's more of a third-party type software versus one particular vendor. And so I get all of the data, whether you have Unix, Linux, Microsoft, Cisco, Foundry, HP. So it captures all the vendor data.
And so what would you expect to deliver when you give the audit results to a customer? What is it you tell them?
Yeah, so the audit results give you the ability to see how many resources you have, what is the utilization of those resources, do you have any systems that are in dire need, or disk space or utilization issues, some CPU utilization captures. So it really gives you ability to get a full view and a health of your network.
What's great for me, what's really helpful to me is to understand what the devices are that I didn't know were out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so many times in an audit we capture, it's about 5 to 7% of devices that people think that they've turned off. They're still out there and running and consuming, power resources to run.
All right, thank you. It looks like that's the last of our questions. Again, thank you all for joining us today. If you have questions or to schedule your free IT audit, you can just email tellmemore@acsalaska.com. And then we also encourage you to go to alaskacommunications.com/testimonials to hear about how we've helped other customers with businesses like yours. Thank you for joining us, and we'll talk to you very soon.